I'm going to reveal to you something that the Lord revealed to me. All this time, I was thinking that this represented both our kingdoms, the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom, but it does not. It's two different captivities and two different curses. They like to tell you that the black man is the true children of Yah because they went in chains on ships and were slaves. But they don't like to show our captivity when we were in captivity in chains and ships during the Columbus exchange. So what you're looking at is a map of the UN. So the maps and the locations and names have been changed. So that whole Israel Iran war, that stage war, that's not the true Holy Lands. The true Holy Lands are in Utah, the Four Corners. So you see both nations represented in the murals, the dark nations and the red copper nations. They were both here in the Americas, and the Olmecs were not black. They were Native American red nations. Adam means red, as in the red nations. And I was sharing with you a video that this guy posted showing that the red copper nations, the Native Americans, were Hebrews, are Hebrews. This got lighter and lighter due to colonization. So America is the true Israel. It's in Utah. Zion, Mount Zion, and Jerusalem is in Utah. And that is the land of milk and honey, where Abba told us he would take us to the land flowing with milk and honey. And that is the honeycomb state. And right there, right now, the temple was destroyed during the Babylonian captivity, and they built the Messianic temple there. That was the Mormon temple that they built there on top of Daddy's sacred site.
We know the truth now here. This is James Adair. He was a native of Ireland who went to North America and became a trader with the Native Americans of the southeastern woodlands. Let's keep going. James Adair wrote the history of the American Indians, the southeastern Indians of North America. Let's keep going. He stated the Indians are of copper or red clay color. Let's keep going. Now, James Adair lived more than 30 years among the ancestors of the present Chickasaws, the Southern Indians. Let's keep going. Now, the American Indian, 1775, he was well versed in the Hebrew language, and in his long residence with the Indians acquired an accurate knowledge of their tongue. He devoted the larger portion of his work to prove that the Indians were originally Hebrews. He also said the Hebrew method of counting between the southeastern Indians had a Hebrew counting system, people. So when they talk about the southern Indian of North America, the southeastern Indians that are descendants from the mound builders, they were speaking Hebrew. We know the truth now.
So these are the true Judites, not those fake ones, those Israelite, Hebrewite hate groups that actually are on the Rome. So these are Jebulees, Revelation 3:9, the Church of Philadelphia. This is who they are. They even hint on it in the movie they clone Tyrone, the church scene.
Cause it don't matter how bad your life is. It don't matter how to get a victim. It don't matter. You got a light bill due. It don't matter. Ain't got a gas bill too. It don't matter. Your grandson Jamal was gunned down in a drive-by shooting right next to the Derrick King. His vision, trust. Say it with me, trust. 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 Hit me.
I ain't been to church in a while. Something is up.
Every time we had a meeting, we built an altar, a physical altar. We had to go in one way and come out another. But when you go in, we bowed to whoever was in front of us. It was a long time before I realized, like, why am I bowing to them? They're not my God. We are making a covenant with this. So, you know, God was telling me, like, you need to watch what you're coming in covenant with. The Order of Eastern Star was something I personally tried to bring my daughter into, not knowing at the time what I was asking her to join. I just thought it was something that we could do together. As a mom, just be careful what we put before our kids. Be careful what we're making them a part of. Because my whole point for this with my kids was to make their college applications look good and put them into something positive, and it was nothing positive about it. I would just say, as a mom, be honest with your kids, talk to your kids, even if they don't listen. You know, I tell my kids, hey, this is what this is. It's the truth. I've done my job. You know, they're out on their own down the line, but just be careful what you're putting on them or what you're asking them to do and what you're asking them to join, because, you know, as parents, we don't always get it right either.
So in several old maps, I see this area depicted as the Red Sea. And speaking of the Red Sea, that's where Moses crossed our people. So Moses was raised in the Pharaoh's home, But he witnessed one time the abuse that the Egyptian soldiers were doing to the Hebrews, right? And he got upset, and he actually ended up killing that soldier that was beating on the Hebrew. So how would Moses know that he was a Hebrew? If both nations were black, how would he know that he was a Hebrew and feel sympathy for the person that they were beating on? Because obviously one was a red copper nation and the other one was darker. So the Grand Canyon is restricted, and the reason that it's restricted because they don't want the people to know that the pharaohs were the black races, the dark races, and that's why they destroyed the faces of the Sphinx, because they wanted to blow away their white noses and lips, like that face that shows that they were black people, and that's why they don't want the world to see it. But I have a video showing that fake Egypt over there, them building the Sphinx with European features. So the ones in the Grand Canyon are the true pharaohs, and the pharaohs were the black races. Like that's what I was telling you, that both nations were in America, and there's two different curses.
What's up, global family? America is Egypt. Why is 90% of the Grand Canyon restricted to the public? Ancient Egyptian artifacts lies within the 90% that has been restricted. Why can't we see the truth? They look like buildings covered in dirt. I'm Newbie One.
I think you see so many people in the black community pushing Egyptian mythology or African heritage, just like in the movie Coming to America. Music videos like Michael Jackson, his Egyptian music video. You have Beyonce, Queen Latifah, just to name a few. The Egyptian community, they were known for wearing wigs and braiding their hair, and they still do that in the black community. The Pope divided the world to be divided between Spain and Portugal. And I'm going to show you the kings, that these kings, the King of Spain and several other ones, were actually black. And I'm also going to show you Roman emperors, they were also black. And I'm also going to show you that even in the money, the $2 bill, there is a black man sitting among the white men as they signed the Declaration of Independence. You see, these nations, they work together, and I'm going to show you who this nation is.
Royal lineages has been obscured or omitted from mainstream history. Yet evidence persists in statues, coins, burial sites, family crests, and historical records, testifying to a rich and complex heritage. Consider Queen Edgith, sister of England's King Athelstan, who married Otto the Holy Roman Emperor. Her remains discovered in Magdeburg Cathedral confirm her historical presence. Saint Maurice, revered as a Christian martyr, is depicted as a Moor in a 13th century statue in Magdeburg Cathedral, Germany. The Andrews family crest from Scotland features a Moor's head, symbolizing the presence and recognition of black nobility in European heraldry. The term Moors described Berber inhabitants of the Maghreb, Iberian Peninsula, Sicily, and Malta during the Middle Ages. Over time, intermarriage and political shifts led to the assimilation and eventual erasure of black nobility from European history. Lucius Quietus, a Moorish prince and Roman general, was appointed governor of Judea in 117 CE and was considered a potential successor to Emperor Trajan. At least 3 Roman emperors of African origin are well documented by historians. These emperors hailed from the Roman provinces of Africa Proconsularis, modern-day Tunisia and parts of Algeria and Libya, and Numidia. While African in Roman terms referred to geographical origin, not modern racial identity, these men were notable for their provincial non-Italian heritage and Berber or Moorish ancestry. King James VI of Scotland and I of England, known for commissioning the King James Bible, has portraits that some interpret as depicting Moorish features. His lineage and the portrayal of his image have been subjects of scholarly debate. Moor was a geographic and political label, not an ethnic or religious term. It included Muslims, Christians, and Jews over time. Before Islam spread across North Africa, many Berbers, ancestral Moors, were Jews, Hebrew, and had been Christianized during the Roman and Byzantine periods. Historical figures such as Edward III, Philip II of Spain, Henry IV of France, Charles V, and Ferdinand I have been depicted in ways that suggest African heritage. Over time, these representations were altered to align with changing racial narratives. Through strategic intermarriage coups and colonial conquests, white European families rebranded royal histories, commissioning new portraits and rewriting genealogies to present an all-white lineage. These were not just blacks in passing, they were Moors, a term denoting a distinct identity and heritage. Recognizing their contributions is essential to understanding Europe's true historical tapestry. The House of Windsor? It descends from Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, a line once tied to Saxony, where black rulers once sat on the throne. It wasn't just whitewashing, it was historical rebranding, strategic, deliberate, racist. Now that we know they were black, we must ask, who are the white faces in our textbooks? This is the Great Royal Switch-Up. European families seized power, then rewrote entire family trees, erased dark features, commissioned new art, and fabricated an all-white royal history.
So religion is one of the things that they gave us. And King James was a black gay man who was a Freemason and sorcerer and wrote books on demonology. And if you see the Bibles that they say, oh, look at the Bibles, there are black people in the Bible. When you take a good look at them, that is Christendom. Because we're not supposed to have any kind of images. And if you look really closely at them, that's a sundial. That so-called halo is a sun worship, sundial behind all of them. And you also see the crosses on them. Again, that is Christendom. That has nothing to do with Abba.
Talk about how King James was gay, right? Okay, I'll spill the tea. Now, he himself never admits publicly that he is gay, but the letters that he has written to his lovers and the rumors that were written about him at that time, oh, he was gay. Now, of course, he was married to Anne of Denmark at that time, and they did have children, and it was a political obligation, but he loved two other men, especially. First, there was Robert Carr, who was the Earl of Somerset. King James gave him so much power, showered him with titles and gifts, unnecessary stuff in a super fast way, which led to people thinking that they might have had a thing going. But his biggest lover was George Villiers. I don't know how to say his last name. He was the Duke of Buckingham. And in his letters to George, he referred to him as my sweetheart and my husband. Okay. They just didn't throw that word around back then. Some of the things that he wrote in his letters to George was, I desire only to live in this world for your sake. I shall never be satisfied without your company. And I must and need to be possessed with your love. I mean, do you talk to your buddies that way? No. Some of the Spanish and French ambassadors at that time wrote reports describing King James' excessive affection for these men, for his male favorites. And then there was a 17th century historian, and his name was Anthony Weldon, and he claimed that James was inclined to sodomy. I don't even know if I could say that word on here. Sir Walter Raleigh once remarked that King James had his male lovers. And then one time, King James openly kissed and embraced his favorites in public, which is an unusual practice for a king at that time. And the rumors were big enough that his opponents used them as political weapons against him to get power. Now, it's important to note that the word homosexual was never in the Bible until 1946 with the Revised Standard Version. Now, he did commission this Bible to be translated in order to support his Protestant views. He didn't want a Bible that was Catholic or Puritan.
This is Henry Lord Darnley, father of King James IV and the First of England, Scotland, and Ireland. And this is Mary, Queen of the Scots, mother of King James. And this is King James himself. And here's yet another image of King James and what he really looked like. My source for all of this information comes from Cambridge University, from the book King James IV and the First Reunion of Christendom. This is one of the very few non-whitewashed images of the king that we have. And they couldn't whitewash this image because it was made on a fabric. So if they whitewashed it, it would destroy the image.
They don't fall under the curses of Deuteronomy, but they fall under the curses of Genesis 9 because they're Hamites, they're Egyptians, and the Egyptians enslaved our people. So Nimrod was a Hamite, and he was in charge of Nineveh. Nineveh is that whole area there was where the 13 colonies were founded. But Esau killed Nimrod and took over. So when he took over, he enslaved them. And that's where their captivity comes from. So their captivity does not come from Deuteronomy, but comes from Genesis 9. Because Esau killed them, took over, and enslaved them.
Get in here. When I say this is one of the biggest secrets, I mean it. I mean it. So you're going to want to listen up very carefully. What does this Egyptian hieroglyph and this map with all these tribes have to do with this hieroglyph language? Where do you think it was invented? In Egypt or all the tribes was speaking this language. All right, let's go down this rabbit hole. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of the Mi'kmaq tribe? Have you ever heard of them? Of the Woodlands indigenous group traditionally residing in Canada, Atlantic, right? The province from Massachusetts all the way to Maine. Have you ever heard of these tribes? But check this out before we continue. You see how they corrupted the name so they can hide this tribe? You see that, right? Keep that in mind before we continue. Now, it's good to understand that this tribe was Tonti or copper color. Keep that in mind, okay? Keep all this in mind, okay? Keep it in mind before we continue. Now, ask yourself this question. What do the French missionaries have something to do with this language and the Mi'kmaq tribe? Oh, this secret about to blow your mind. But before I continue, if you'd like to donate $1, I greatly appreciate it. But let's continue. Now, when they got to them lands, the Mi'kmaq tribe, they say, hold on. They speaking Egyptian. And they says they bear some resemblance to the ancient Egypt hieroglyph, right? System predates European contact. Predates the Mi'kmaq tribe, right? And they said, hold on. The French missionaries came in the 17th century, created the language because the Mi'kmaq tribe of all these tribes was speaking the language. Now, pay attention to this word. Pay attention to this word. Diagrams. I think that's how you pronounce it. What is that? And what is a diagram? Or I guess that's how you pronounce it. But it's where you use the writing system and symbols of all these ancient Egyptians language predate of Egypt with hundreds of tribes speaking so-called Egyptian hieroglyphs, which this is Lower Egypt, right? Memphis is Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt, from Maine to Vermont to New Hampshire to Massachusetts to Connecticut, all was using the Egyptian hieroglyph system called the Mi'kmaq tribes, right? And as you can see, bear the same resemblance to the ancient Egyptian hieroglyph system predates European contact.
So is Japhet, the white nations, Eurasia. So Shem are the red copper nations, red copper color nations, and Ham are the dark races. So it says that his image will come back to life. Well, it's the image of Akhenaten, because Obama will be coming back. It will be the last pharaoh in America, and he will be ruling. And he was born in Africa, and I have a video of him actually admitting it, that he was born in Africa, making him a Hamite. So his image will be coming back alive. And it is. That's who he is. He's Akhenaten. So America and North and South America, Canada, they're all going to be combined into one. And this whole system is going to be reset in Brazil. And he is going to be running this system. And the system that we have right now, which should be running from Washington, D.C., for Virgin Mary, Maryland, is actually not there anymore. And that's where the system, the money system, it runs from. So guys, be ready for the great reset that's about to take place.
I was born in Kenya. And just to be clear, I know where my birth certificate is, but a lot of people don't. I'm proud to be the first U.S. president to visit Kenya. And obviously this is personal for me. There's a reason why my name is Barack Hussein Obama. Obviously, there are emotions to a visit like this. Memories come rushing back. 3 years ago, I visited Kenya as the first sitting American president to come from Kenya. And of course, I'm the first Kenyan American to be president of the United States.
I was not born in Hawaii. I wasn't born in the United States of America. I come from Kenya.
And visited his home country in Kenya.
Reason to have a little doubt.
So while we're all being distracted, whether we're going to war or not, I don't know if you guys have been to your Google Maps or your Apple Maps and looked up Washington, D.C. It's not there anymore. It's just Washington. So while we're all being
The Egyptians worked with the Book of the Dead, and so do the Romans, the Catholics. And what did they bring to our lands? They brought us the Catholic faith, and they also brought us hoodoo, voodoo, and santeria and brujeria. And this Black Lives Matter movement, that is a witch movement created by two lesbians. Also the Juneteenth, you're going to see the hand gestures, also the same thing. The Bloods and Crips, those are colors of Freemasonry, and the hand gestures are also Freemason hand gestures. All these people, they have a controller over them. Like Whitney Houston had Clive Davis, I think his name is. And when she died, and her daughter, they did for her an Egyptian funeral, because that's what these people are. And I want you to notice with the wrap around her mother, that's supposed to be representation of the pharaoh, the headpiece that they will wear. They know who they are. They're Hamites. That's who they are. They fell on the curses of Genesis 9. So these three work together. You have the beast, which is Obama, the dragon, King Charles, and the false prophet. These are your tribe of Dan that broke off the tree of life. And this is also your Hamites, and this is the Vatican. They all work together. I used to wonder, why is it that there's a statue of Baphomet with a little black boy and a little white girl next to him? Now I know that these are the two nations that represent the Gentile nations that work with him. But I want you to, well, Japhet and Hamites, but I want you to know that in the first Exodus, there was a group of Egyptians that came out with us because they started worshiping Jehovah with us. So remember that the Gentile nations are grafted into the tree of life. The movie Sinners. In the movie Sinners, you will see that the vampire was running away from the Native American, the Red Copper nations, but the white man let him in. And also the black races let him in, because they told him that you will not have anything here unless you join them. And that's what happened. The black man joined them, the Hamites, but they cannot get ahead of Esau. That's why they burned down Wall Street, Black Wall Street, because they cannot beat their equal. There always has to be one step beneath Esau. Our colonizers were Lunzan, as in the tribe of Dan, Lunzan. And as you can see right here, Balda and Paler, vampirism, because they are related. They're related to Balda and Paler. And they came into our lands, and that's what they did. That's what the movie portrays them, as vampires. That's who they are. Also in the movie, his love interest was a root worker. She worked with the dead. And they were also using music to bewitch people. And his other character is Steve Harvey in The Matrix. That's his other character.
I've done nothing wrong.
When you tell the truth, you have to deal with the repercussions of the truth. We black out here. We can't come out here and do it any kind of way we want to. Listen to me. Your husband can't be the Sidney that he really is out here.
Let me tell you something.
That flexing, we got to flex a different way. We out here in a game. This the money game. This ain't the black man's game. This ain't the white man's game. This is the money game. We in the money game. And you cannot sacrifice yourself. The best thing you can do for poor people is not be one of them. You cannot help them.
We're in the money game. But let me tell you what the game is before the money game. Before the money game, it's called the integrity game. And we've lost the integrity worrying about the money.
But Mo,
wait a minute.
If I crumble, my children crumble, my grandchildren crumble. I cannot, for the sake of my integrity, stand up here and let everybody that's counting on me crumble so I...
Sammy, you're the one I came for. I sensed you. I want to see my people again. I'm trapped here, but your gifts can bring them to me. Y'all give them to me now. Just give me a little Sammy. We'll let y'all live. Save your brother. You ain't safe here. No matter how many guns or how much money, they gonna take it from you when they want. You built something here tonight, and it was beautiful, but it was built on a lie. Hogwood, he's the grand dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. That's his motherfucking nephew. They was always gonna kill you. I just happened to show up at the right place at the right time. You tell me the truth, Smoke. I can see his memories. Smoke, that ain't your brother. This wasn't no juke joint. No clue. This is a slaughterhouse. It's a goddamn killing floor.
But what Uncle Hogwood don't know is we're gonna start ourselves a new plan based on love.
Now that we got numbers, we probably go to that old bigot and rectify him, too.
Why can't y'all just go? We're not leaving without y'all. We family. Ain't that right? I know it sounds crazy, but after we kill y'all, we're gonna have heaven right here on earth.
It's in my brain. Do you know that? It's living rent free. I can't get it out. You did that.
Yeah, it's hypnosis.
There are legends of people born with the gift of making music so true it can pierce the veil between life and death, conjuring spirits from the past and the future.
life. Somebody take
So I'm going to share with you a video that I came across a couple of years ago. In this video, it says how the Egyptians created a man out of ape, which is the wild man, and he eventually took over. And that is the story of the wild man versus the black nobles.
The ancient Egyptians spoke about a race of men. More than 6,000 years ago, the ancient Egyptians spoke about a race of men that they created. These hairy ape men were said to wreak havoc amongst the people of Egypt. So the Egyptians rounded them up and imprisoned them in the Caucasus Mountains, which they called Europa after their queen Euro, and Rope meaning contained or imprisoned. The story relates to that of Tutmosis, who was sent to the Caucasus Mountains to give them language and written knowledge. It should be noted that the Russians have a similar Exodus story in ancient text. These Europa men who terrorized indigenous peoples of the world eventually be portrayed as kings, seers, and holy men. Because of things like the Crusades and the infamous burning of the Library of Alexandria, a lot of the world's history has been distorted to fit the narrative of the winners.
So our people, especially our women, have been going missing for years. Especially now that we are in the year of the Jubilee and the lands get returned to us. Since 2020, they have returned more than 3 million acres of water rights and acres back to us. And that's the reason that they are rounding up our people and putting them in camps. And that's why they're putting together Canada and the Americas into one and getting the indigenous people and hunting them down. And these lands are being returned to the red man. Our nations, they're not being returned to the black community. So Beyonce's Renaissance album, that's when they whitewashed everything. And that's what she's trying to say, that they're going to whitewash everything all over again. You notice how she started out really dark in her career. Now she's practically a white woman, and so is her mother. And this whole Texas album is because Memphis, Texas is where the AIB system is about to be set up. That is Babylon.